Good evening, friends. My name is Reverend Hillary Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of South Carolinians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. And tonight we are covering the Advocacy Toolkit launch for Stephen Stanko. A couple of quick table setting things before we talk about the nature of Stephen's case and the Advocacy Toolkit that we'll be using. Let's talk about the death penalty in South Carolina. So the last person to be executed in the state was Mikhail Mahdi on April 11th, 2025, under Governor Henry Pastor. He was the fifth person executed in the last 8 months. And since 1978, South Carolina has executed approximately 48 people. In terms of clemency, meaning changing somebody's death sentence from death to life, the governor is the sole person who can grant clemency. The Probations, Pardons, and Parole Board, also known as the PPP here in South Carolina, has no power to grant clemency the way it does in other states. No governor has ever granted clemency to somebody with an execution date in the modern era of the death penalty in South Carolina. And we call the modern era of the death penalty any case after 1976. In terms of death row, there are currently 30 people on South Carolina's death row. There could be one additional death eligible person in 2025. So we could be looking at a total of 5 executions potentially this year. And then in terms of pending capital cases, it's important to know that the death penalty is actually not really being actively utilized in South Carolina. We are certainly executing people actively, but we are not sentencing people to death. South Carolina has not sentenced anyone to death row since 2009. New death sentences are few and far between. And in fact, 60% of people who were sentenced to death row in South Carolina are eventually resentenced to alternative prison terms, which is a very high rate. Now we're going to talk about the advocacy campaign for Stephen Stanko. And this is one of the graphics that we have that we will show you later. A quick content warning. We will be mentioning sexual assault in this presentation, and so we trust that people will take care of themselves appropriately. Obviously, for each of these cases, we were talking about murder, and so we know that that's par for the course, but this is an extra piece that we wanted to make sure that people were as they're watching this. In terms of the circumstances of the crime, Stephen Stanko has been on death row for nearly 20 years in South Carolina. Experts diagnosed Stephen with brain damage, likely from numerous brain injuries, including from a troubled birth, a blow to the back of the head as a teen while shielding a classmate from assault, and repeated traumas from serious sports-related head injuries. Brain damage resulted in tissue loss in the left frontal lobe and medial brain structures, places him in the bottom 2.4% of the population. On April 8th, 2005, Stephen killed his 43-year-old girlfriend. He then sexually assaulted her teenage daughter and attempted to kill her. She survived the attack. Stephen then went to his friend's house, Henry Turner, in Conway, South Carolina, and killed him with a gun. Stephen then stole Henry's truck, his money, and fled to Augusta, Georgia, where he was eventually caught by police. He was sentenced to death in 2006. While nothing excuses Stephen's terrible crimes, his execution will not make South Carolina safer. The problems resulting from his brain damage are well controlled in the structured environment of prison. Stephen has not been a danger to prison staff or other inmates and has productively used his years on death row to repent of his crimes and seek God's forgiveness, help other inmates, and write about his experiences. Now we're going to talk about the petition. And so I'm going to be alternating between the sharing my screen. So give me a quick moment while I can go ahead and share a couple of things. So here we see that we have an Action Network petition that we create for every person who experiences being handed down a death sentence here in South Carolina. Currently, we have about 1,300 people who have signed this petition. Our goal is to get a minimum of 5,000 petition signatures. We have a picture again of Stephen, a message asking folks to talk to the governor, to phone him, and later email him. We'll show you those images and resources. And then all of that, which we have shared about Stephen's case, all of that can be found here in case you're in need of talking points. And then we have also this letter to the governor, which we will be printing out and handing to him. You can simply sign your name here with this petition here, putting your first name, last name, email, and also your zip code. And then in terms of the digital organizing toolkit, we want to go ahead and share this with you. Our digital organizing toolkits that we create at SCADP have lots of different action items, at least 7. First and foremost, it shows that you can sign the petition here. You can check out the fact sheet. Again, these are all things that we have just shared on the circumstances of the crime slides. We ask folks to contact the governor by different means. We ask people to post and share our content on social media. We ask people to follow us on all of our social media sites. We have all of the different meta sites, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We also use X, we use LinkedIn, and we also use Blue Sky. You can use the hashtag Justice for Stephen Stanko, and you can also look on our webpage at www.scadp.org/advocate. This toolkit here also has its own link, and the toolkit is bit.ly/Stephen Stanko toolkit. You can subscribe to SCADP's email list if you are not already on there. This link, if you click it, will take you to our email list. And then we also have some sample posts for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The first bit, or the first message: South Carolina's use of the death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment. Executing Stephen Stanko violates the 8th Amendment. Hashtag Justice for Stephen Stanko. Link to the petition. We need your help. Stephen Stanko will be executed by the state of South Carolina June 13th, 2025. And then different ways you can respond. And then talking to the governor, telling Governor Henry Master to hashtag stop executions and use the toolkit to amplify calls at bit.ly/Stephen Stanko toolkit. We also have a bunch of different graphics on this particular document, but if you want to get a PNG file specifically, what you can do is you can access the downloaded file here in our graphics for Stephen Stanko file, and all of that is open and accessible to anybody who has the link. We have lots of the same graphics with many of the same pictures. We also have several new different designs as well, one focusing specifically on Governor McMaster and also using other kinds of designs. And then when it comes to contacting Governor McMaster more directly, we have his phone number, obviously, and it's printed elsewhere on this digital organizing toolkit. We have his email, and we also have email instructions, and we'll show those just now. Our phone script is here. It says basically, hi, my name is blank, your name here, and that you live in X city and X zip code, that you're calling today to ask Governor McMaster to stop the execution of Stephen Stanko, scheduled to be executed on June 13th. Note, if you are leaving a message on the answering machine, make sure you state your name, phone number, or email address clearly, and zip code. And if you're writing to the governor, handwritten letters and postcards work best. And then right here, I'm going to zoom in. If you are emailing the governor, note this is most effective for people who are South Carolina citizens. If you are trying to reach the governor through digital means, our recommendation is that you sign the petition, and if possible, call the governor's office and leave a voicemail. If you're a South Carolina resident, you can choose to contact the governor by going to this bit.ly link, bit.ly/SCADP-governor, all in lowercase letters. You can fill out the requester information, click next, choose other, choose governor, write Stephen Stanko in the subject box, and then send a message urging Governor Astor to stop the execution of Stephen Stanko. And if you have specific questions that you need answered, you can always contact SCADP with the following information. Our website is www.scadp.org. Our email for our community organizing purposes is info@scadp.org. And then we have a post office box and a phone number you can also contact too. We will update folks as new information comes out. The best way to do that is to subscribe to our email newsletter. You can do that by going to our website and clicking newsletter or connect with us. We, again, have scripts for contacting the governor, social media statements, and sample posts. Anytime we have new ones, we will definitely let you know where those are. Find them. We may even put them on our email newsletter listserv. Things we are in need of right now. If you are somebody who's interested in hosting a vigil in your particular town or city, please let us know. We have set vigil locations in Greenville and in Columbia and in North Charleston, kind of the Low Country area, but we are always looking for people who might want to do vigils in other places, potentially even Horry County or Georgetown County, where Stephen's crimes were committed. We are also in need of connections to legislators, particularly legislators on the Low Country or the PD area. Again, advocating specifically for Stephen's a change in his death sentence from death to life. And then connections to faith and spiritual leaders. Stephen is a spiritual person, and we find that having any connection to faith and spiritual leaders, regardless of the tradition, is helpful when advocating against the death penalty. So if you know of a faith or spiritual leader who would like to be involved in this work, please contact me, and you can do that by going to info@scadp.org. We've already covered how to contact the governor through digital means. And then what I try to do with each of these toolkits is remind people things about the death penalty. For example, we will end the death penalty. That is something that I remind folks almost every time. Tonight, what I want to do, though, is share another thing. So yes, we will end the death penalty eventually. It's not a matter of if, but when, and this is what my friends who are in conservative circles tell me. But what I want folks to remember tonight is this: the death penalty harms everyone, and it needs to be abolished. There are times when many people will look at organizations like SCADP and say, you can't possibly be for the rights of murder victim family members or people who experience violence. And what it's important to remember is that here at SCADP, we are not here to speak on behalf of murder victim family members. Murder victim family members get to feel however they want about the violence that they've experienced. Murder victim family members deserve to be seen. They deserve to be heard unconditionally. They deserve to have their pain taken seriously. They deserve to know that what happened to them was wrong. They deserve to have the person who harmed them do their best to repair that harm to the extent possible. And murder victim family members, above all, deserve to know that whatever happened to them will never happen to them again. And the death penalty is the poorest predictor for accomplishing all of those things. And murder victim family members deserve all of those things. And we here at SCADP are people who take violence seriously. And we want to be the solvers of violence. We want to solve the problem of violence here in South Carolina. The death penalty, unfortunately, does not solve violence. It's not a deterrent. It's wastefully expensive. It's extremely discriminatory, particularly to people of color, to people who are poor, to people who have different kinds of disabilities related to their brains or their intellect or their trauma. And also, again, it's the poorest way to make sure that victims of violence get the things that they need to recover from their trauma and to live lives of flourishing. We want to prevent violence from happening. We want to interrupt it when it does happen. We want to make sure that nobody commits the kind of harm where people feel that they need to be sentenced on death row and then executed in our names as citizens of South Carolina. So that is what we mean when we say that the death penalty harms everyone and it needs to be abolished. If all we did is end the death penalty and put all of our state's resources that are currently going to the death penalty towards murder victim family member services, we would be in an infinitely better place and we would be a much safer state. So please remember this as we advocate against the death penalty. What I want to do now is cover a couple of things around upcoming calendar events. As I mentioned, there are vigils that are happening across the state, and if you're looking for vigils in places beyond Columbia, I encourage you to go to www.scadp.org/advocate. In terms of things that are set rituals in Columbia, we will be delivering the petition asking for Governor McMaster to change Stephen's death sentence from death to life. We'll be doing that on June 12th. We'll be having the press conference at 11 a.m. on the inside of the State House on the first floor in the Rotunda area. If you would like to be there, you are more than welcome to be there. Also on June 12th, we'll be having a vigil of remembrance at Washington Street United Methodist Church from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. This vigil will be in their Christ Chapel, and parking is available in the lot that is closest to Bull Street on the lot of Washington Street United Methodist Church. And then finally, on June 13th, pending that a stay of execution or any kind of change from the death to life is not given, we will have a vigil at Broad River Correctional Institution from about 4:30 until the execution has been announced. And then after that, we normally have a kind of closing prayer and song together as people who are against the death penalty and people gathered to resist the executions. This will take place outside of Broad River Correctional Institution, between the Iron Gate and also the road. It will be obvious where that is. If you have questions about where you will need to park, we'll be having some of that information shared on our email newsletter. Again, you can subscribe to our newsletter by going to our website and hitting connect with us. And this vigil is co-facilitated by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Charleston, which continues to be one of our most fervent supporters against the death penalty in South Carolina. Other things for your calendar, we have a virtual book club that is happening on May 22nd, which is, if you are watching this the week of May 22nd, it will be happening within a few days. The virtual book club is Chain Gang All-Stars, and we will be reading it this week, discussing it, and then discussing related things. And then we also have other opportunities for people to mobilize and advocate against the death penalty. We have a monthly info session for people who are not yet connected to our organization but want to be, and you can go to our website at www.scadp.org/monthly-info-sessions, and you can register for a free Zoom link to learn more about SCADP and its work. And then we also have, it says April 17th, it is actually the third Tuesday of June, and I will look that date up right now. Thank you for your patience. That will be on, it will actually be on June 17th. So I had the date right, but not the month. But we have a monthly organizing meetup in case you are interested in doing a deeper dive in some of the community organizing efforts we are doing in South Carolina to abolish the death penalty and catalyze criminal justice reform. And if you're not following us already, again, follow us on our newsletter by subscribing to www.scadp.org/newsletter, and then all of our social medias. Most of our handles are at SCA Death Penalty. And then on LinkedIn, you can simply look us up by looking up South Carolinians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. And that is it, friends. Thank you so much for joining us on this evening. We know you could be doing other things, and we know that you may not be watching it in the evening wherever you are, but you could be doing all kinds of other things. We thank you for joining us and for watching this toolkit launch. We are grateful for your advocacy, and please reach out to us if you need anything. Take care.